I retired at 62. I filed for Social Security right away. At the time, it felt like the obvious move. I'd worked for 40 years, I was tired, and I wanted to start collecting what I'd earned. Now, I'm 70, and I've had a lot of time to think about whether I made the right call. The honest answer is more complicated than I expected. Here's what I've learned looking back. Let me start by saying this. There's no single right answer to when to retire or when to file for Social Security. Every situation is different. What I'm going to share is my own experience and what I'd think about if I had a do-over. I'd been working since I was 22, 40 years. I worked in operations management for a manufacturing company, the kind of job where you're on your feet, dealing with problems, and going home tired. By 60, I was burned out. By 62, I was done. My wife was 60 at the time and still working. We had about $650,000 in retirement savings, solid but not lavish. The house was almost paid off. The kids were on their own. When I looked at the math, taking Social Security at 62 looked like the obvious move. I'd get my benefit early. Combined with my wife's income for a few more years, we'd have enough. And honestly, I just wanted to be done. So I retired, and I filed. And for the first few years, it felt great. The first 3 years were everything I'd hoped for. I slept in, I worked on the yard, I took up woodworking, we took some trips. My wife retired at 63, and we settled into a comfortable rhythm together. My Social Security check was about $1,700 a month, reduced from what it would have been at full retirement age because I filed early. My wife's eventual Social Security was higher than mine because she'd had higher earnings in her last decade of work. Combined with modest withdrawals from our savings, we were living on around $70,000 a year. Not extravagant, but plenty for the life we wanted. I felt great about my decision. Around year 5, I started noticing things. First, I realized how much I'd given up by filing at 62. My benefit was permanently reduced by about 30%. If I'd waited until full retirement age, my check would have been around $2,400 a month instead of $1,700. If I'd waited until 70, it would have been around $3,000 a month. Over a lifetime, that's a lot of money. Even accounting for the years of payments I'd already received, the math was starting to look less favorable. The break-even age, when delayed filing would have produced more total dollars, kept getting closer. Second, my health was better than I'd expected. I'd thought maybe I'd have 10 or 15 years of active retirement. As it turned out, at 70, I'm still healthy and active. I might live another 20 years or more. Those extra years of life mean even more of a financial hit from filing early. Third, I realized how much my decision affected my wife. The higher earning spouse drives the survivor benefit. If I die first, my wife gets to keep the larger of our two benefits. By filing early and locking in a smaller benefit, I had reduced what she'd receive if she outlived me. I hadn't thought about that when I filed. If I had it to do over, here's what I'd think about more carefully. My health and family longevity. I knew I was healthy when I filed at 62, but I'd assumed I'd probably live to my mid-70s like my dad. What I didn't account for was that my mom had lived to 92 and was still going strong. Looking at both sides of my family, I had a real chance of living into my mid-80s or longer. For someone with that longevity profile, filing early is rarely the best move financially. The longer you live, the more you give up by filing at 62. I treated Social Security as my decision, but it really wasn't. It was our decision. The survivor benefit math affects both spouses for the rest of their lives. If I'd thought about it as a couple's decision instead of an individual one, I might have made a different choice. Specifically, I might have considered waiting until full retirement age, or even 70, to maximize the survivor benefit for my wife. I filed at 62, partly because I felt like I needed the money. But looking back, I didn't really need it that badly. I had savings. My wife was still working. We could have lived comfortably without Social Security for a few years. If I'd been more honest with myself about whether I actually needed to file early, I might have waited. Here's the thing I really wish someone had explained to me clearly. Retiring and filing for Social Security are two different decisions. I conflated them. I figured if I was retiring, I should file. That's how most people think about it. But the two decisions can be separated. You can retire at 62 and not file for Social Security until later. You just need to bridge the gap by drawing more from your savings during those early retirement years. If I had it to do over, I think I would have retired at 62. I was ready, but delayed filing for Social Security until at least full retirement age. We had enough savings to bridge those 5 years. The math works like this. If I'd drawn an extra $25,000 a year from savings for 5 years to bridge the gap, I would have spent about $125,000 from savings, but I would have come out with a Social Security check 50% higher for the rest of my life. Over a 30-year retirement, that math heavily favors waiting. Here's where I have to be honest. Calling it a mistake might be too strong. I got to start retirement at 62 with the freedom and time I wanted. I've enjoyed every year of being retired. I had several years of feeling like I'd earned my reward and was finally living for myself instead of for a job. There's value in that. Real value. Not everything is about maximizing the dollar amount. But financially, yes. I left money on the table. Probably a lot of money over my lifetime. And I reduced my wife's potential survivor benefit. Those are real costs that I didn't fully appreciate when I made the decision. So, was it a mistake? It was the right choice for me emotionally at the time, but the wrong choice mathematically. Both can be true. When friends and former coworkers ask me about filing decisions, here's what I tell them. First, separate the decision to retire from the decision to file. They don't have to happen at the same time. Second, run the numbers. Don't just guess. Compare your monthly benefit at 62, full retirement age, and 70. Look at the cumulative dollars under each scenario at age 75, 85, and 90. Third, think about your spouse. If you're the higher earner, your filing age affects your spouse's survivor benefit for life. That should be part of the conversation. Fourth, think about your actual need. Are you filing because you need the money or because you want it? Those are different things, and the answer matters. Fifth, be honest about your health and longevity. Look at your parents and grandparents. If you have reason to think you'll live a long time, that changes the math significantly. I don't regret retiring at 62. I would do that again. I'd had enough of work, my body and mind needed the break, and I've used the years well. What I regret is filing for Social Security at the same time without thinking it through. Those are two separate decisions, and I made one of them on autopilot. Here's what I wish someone had said to me at 62. Just because you can file for Social Security doesn't mean you should. Just because you're retiring doesn't mean Social Security has to start the same month. These are two different decisions, and treating them as one can cost you and your spouse a lot of money over the rest of your lives. Think about it carefully. Run the numbers. Don't do what most people do, which is file as soon as they can without really considering the alternative. If this video resonated with you, hit that like button and drop a comment below. When did you file for Social Security, or when are you planning to? Looking back, would you do it differently? I read every comment and I love hearing other people's stories. And if you want more honest reflections on retirement, subscribe. I share exactly what I wish I knew so you can make smarter money moves.